What is happening at Gaming Dude here, and with the failure of Concord and the fact that it's gotten shut down pretty much 2 weeks after its initial release, it's unfortunate to see, but I personally have been wondering what the heck is going to be happening with Fairgames and with Marathon, two more live services that we know have been announced alongside Concord, and of course Helldivers 2. So we know Helldivers 2, quite successful, is still going to some extent. Concord, absolute failure, has completely shut down and is now no longer playable as of me recording this video. So now let's switch our attention towards the future. Internal feedback at Sony reportedly shows great optimism about gaming giant's next live service, Fairgames, despite the failure of Concord. So this is only a rumor going around, but apparently people at Sony are actually quite positive about the upcoming first party live service game. Now, a couple of things worth keeping in mind. The Fairgames developers, Haven Studios, was created in 2021 and then Sony bought them out in 2022. So I think it's pretty easy to say that Sony has kind of been there for a majority of the time in which they have been developing Fairgames. That being said, however, it's worth keeping in mind, and I don't know if a lot of people knew this, but the developers of Concord, Firewalk Studios, have been developing Concord for about 8 years, but Sony only bought them in 2023, which is at the very tail end of their development cycle that they got bought up, which is quite interesting to know. However, and I think this Game Rant article by Viraj Bhatnagar, I think puts it pretty succinctly. As per a recent report, Sony is apparently quite bullish on its next live service game, Fairgames. In the aftermath of the unprecedented collapse of PlayStation's latest live service effort, Concord, this development suggests that Fairgames could have a better shot at success in the crowded but potentially very profitable live service space. Developed by PlayStation first-party team Haven Studios, Fairgames is billed as a thrilling competitive heist game. Although Haven was only formed about 3 years ago, the talent behind the studio makes it quite noteworthy, and this is where Jade Raymond's name comes up, which I didn't realize she was actually part of Assassin's Creed development. But she is the leading person that kind of was part of the creation of Haven Studios. So that's actually quite interesting to note. But yeah, there is an action-packed CGI trailer. In fact, it's actually quite interesting to look at. But if I go to Fairgames trailer, here we go. So this is a CGI trailer that came out last year in May, and I'm actually going to mute the audio because there is actually a good amount of music in the background, and more specifically, I don't know if it's copywritten music or something like that, but it's a lot of not even rap, like pop, like sort of hello fellow kids type of energy. And it seems like people, you can actually kind of see the like to dislike ratio right here. 3.9k likes to 43k dislikes, and people are not liking this at all. And sure, like this initial aesthetic looked cool, like up to about 46 seconds in, and now when we look at the character designs, it doesn't really look that fun. It's supposed to be some sort of PvP heist related game and a few other bits and pieces in there, but we don't actually specifically know what this game is about, what the gameplay is going to be like. We know absolutely nothing about this game besides some PvP related potential PvP related elements and potential heist elements, but we don't know what the heck is going on specifically. And this trailer is a bit of a hard watch because, especially after the failure of Concord, it kind of doesn't inspire confidence, let's put it that way. And they have like this whole eat the rich type of mentality they've got going on throughout the trailer, which when you look at it, you can kind of point out. But yeah, it's clear that it's not going particularly well, and it could very well get cancelled before it gets released. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because of this whole internal rumor that apparently Fairgames is going to be treated a little bit more positively, but I don't know. I'm not 100% on that. And in fact, I don't feel particularly enthused by what is already being shown. As a PlayStation gamer myself, I was never looking forward to Concord because of its multiplayer, background. I'm more of a single player gamer, and that's kind of where I live and breathe and thrive. I mean, of course, there are JRPGs, rhythm games, fighting games. That's where I personally fall. So to have a competitive heist shooter seems like a bit much. Okay, there's a sentence here that just rubbed me the wrong way, I just realized. Based on a surface level analysis, though, Fairgames being a competitive heist shooter like Payday 3 already gives it an edge over Concord. Of course, anything will give a game over, anything could be better than Concord, let's be real with that. That being said, I would never say that Payday is a competitive heist shooter. I haven't played Payday 3, but Payday 2 definitely isn't. It's a cooperative heist shooter, where you and your mates get together, you jump into a match, you jump into a specific heist, and then you plan things out and do them methodically, or you just go in running and gunning, but pretty much it's you and a bunch of guys and you're doing the heists. And whatever random elements are thrown in, especially with Payday 2, it had a really good amount of random things that could happen in the game. For example, if you look at something like the fire starter job and how, the weapons that you're looking for, if you wanted to get out with every single weapon in the game, you kind of needed to make sure that you sneak around the entire area before you go in guns blazing, taking out everyone, all the guards and stuff. That's just a random example, but I don't imagine that it's going to be a competitive heist shooter, not a cooperative one. So I think Payday is not a good comparison point. So it does at least have some seemingly unique selling point, but I just don't see this doing particularly well, if I'm being completely honest. Right now, the community is very much mixed on the idea. Well, not mixed, heavily against the idea. And apparently it seems like internally at Sony, they seem pretty optimistic about the whole thing. So I'm just curious as to where this whole thing is going to be. Where is the axe ultimately going to land? Is it going to land far away from Fairgames, and Fairgames actually turns out to be somewhat of a success? However, even if it's somewhat of a success, I feel like Sony isn't going to truly say that it is successful in any meaningful way. It needs to be an outstanding success for Sony to be like, yes, we like what this game is doing. Personally, I'm incredibly tepid about the whole thing because it's a competitive heist shooter rather than a cooperative heist shooter. If it was more like Payday, I would be a lot more interested, given that Payday 3 has significantly fallen down from how great Payday 2 was as a game, and hell, Payday the Heist, still a good game on PS3. Payday 2, an exceptionally good game, albeit somewhat buggy and broken in places, but still consistently good enough to where I can always go back and replay that any day of the week, whether it be on my PS3 or the Crime Wave edition on PS4. Payday 3, not quite anywhere near as good as either of those games, and I'm still waiting for that offline mode, but who knows how long it'll be before we see that. If only these were not online only games, maybe I'd be a tad bit more interested. Fairgames feels like something that I would be interested in, but unfortunately that competitive element is just stopping me from being interested. Concord was just, it's a multiplayer 5v5 shooter, which from the outset I personally would never have been interested in to begin with, no matter, even if the characters look absolutely rubbish and the fact that it's really slow to play. And that's just based off of watching videos of other people playing. I never really ever considered buying it myself. That being said, with the failure of Concord and the upcoming discussions around Fairgames, the fact that there's heavily negative sentiment from the community, but fairly positive sentiment from internally within Sony, it really does make me wonder, again, as I said before, where the axe is going to land on Fairgames. And hell, let's not forget, Bungie is currently losing staff while trying to make Marathon a thing. They still need to support Destiny 2. So where does, again, all of these things going to land ultimately in the end? Let me know what you guys think about all of this mind-melting madness that's going on with Sony's first-party output in the live service space. Let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel. I'm aiming for 300 subs by the end of the year. With all of that said and done, I upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.